So now I want to talk to you about the story that you tell to yourself about who you are, your capabilities, and what you can get done in life. And one of the most important things in my life was learning the story that I was creating and changing that story. You see, I had many people in my life that tell me I would never amount to anything. I just wasn't smart enough. I wasn't good enough. I even had told people that would say you'll just end up in jail one day. In fact, my first year of college, I remember walking in there and one of my teachers, after a couple classes, telling me I'm just not made for college. I'm just not smart enough, and I'm not college type person. He actually told me that I should look at a career maybe as a garbage man that paid pretty good and stuff like that. That's what he was telling me. Not that there's anything wrong with that job, but he was telling me and defining my future. He was telling me I just wasn't college material. And a lot of people, again, had told me these things, and those voices rang true in my head. And what happened? I started creating a self-fulfilling prophecy within myself. I started believing it. Everything that people would tell me, that I would amount to nothing, that I would do this and I would do that, I was actually doing it because I believed it in myself. I was like, I'm hearing this from a professor, I'm hearing this from a teacher, I'm hearing this from a family member. But the powerful thing that happened to me is that I got to a point that I said, I am no longer letting someone else drive my life. I'm going to take the steering wheel to my life and make my own choices, create my own story, and prove everyone wrong. And more importantly, show myself that I was more capable and that I could really do anything that I wanted to. And what I started doing was I started making small goals. And those small, tiny goals that I could stay focused on, that I would do, would give me more and more confidence and believing in myself. Because a lot of people, they make these exaggerated goals and then they don't achieve them and they say, well, people were right. Or maybe I'm not smart enough or talented enough. They almost do it sometimes so they can tell themselves or give themselves an excuse not to actually achieve what they want to achieve. And I'm not saying dream big, because more than anything, if you're not motivated, you have to dream big. And you have to create big goals, but you have to create smaller goals that are going to help create that confidence within you, that are going to help teach you, that are going to help give you a foundation. Because if you can do that, then what tends to happen is that it's going to motivate you long term. I actually ended up going back to school after failing my first year of college, after really believing all those things that everyone was saying about me, to going back, and I started working full time. I was working at the time full time. I started taking 2 classes at a time at a community college, and I started with classes that were a little easier for me, just to get my foot wet again after getting all F's. And what I realized is that as I got a good grade, as I started affirming to myself, you're smart, you're brilliant, you're a genius, I used a lot of affirmations in this process because I started catching my internal voice as well. So one of the most powerful things you could do as well is just catch that internal voice, because that internal voice is not your voice. It's the voice of other people and what they've been telling you for years. So the seeds that they planted that all of a sudden grew. So now you have to plant your own seeds and help them grow. So when you listen to that voice, you got to shift it. You got to show evidence that it's not true. You got to find a different affirmation, different statement that you're going to tell yourself that can reframe some of the things that you've been telling yourself. Because a lot of times what happens is that we don't even realize that we say those things. But if you catch your brain saying it, if you catch your behavior sabotaging you, you kind of release the power that it has. Because once you're aware of it, what can happen? Once you're aware of it, unconsciously and consciously, you start shifting it. Because you start recognizing that it's not the reality that you want to create. So ask yourself, what are those voices? What are those seeds that people planted in your life that now set limitations on yourself? Because you at your core, you know that you're capable of achieving anything you want. You just got to bring that self back in. As a child, you were probably a dreamer. Probably didn't think you had limitations at times. And what happened to that dreamer? It's still in there. It just wants to be released. That child that used his imagination and believed that anything was possible is still in there. You just got to be willing to let that child out, to let that believer out. And the way that you start is taking control back. Taking control back of that voice within your head that tells you you can't do it, you're not good enough, and you're not smart enough. You got to take control back, because you owe it to yourself and you owe it to those around you that need you to be your best self. Because as you become your best self, you motivate other people to become the best self. So again, I challenge you to take that internal voice and shift it to an empowering voice. And then again, make those small goals that are going to help you build confidence along the way to create the life that you truly want to create. Also, if you like this content, you want more content like this, subscribe to our channel. Just click on subscribe, and we're constantly producing more content to help you on your journey. Thank you.